Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. Today, we're diving headfirst into a topic that's about as comfortable as a phone call with your internet provider. Yes, you know, the one where you're endlessly on hold, listening to that dreadful elevator music. We're talking about China's increasingly firm grip on American industries. It's a complex and often controversial subject, but one that we can't afford to ignore. Now, before you reach for that unsubscribe button faster than a politician backpedals on a campaign promise, hear me out. This isn't just another doom and gloom scenario. This isn't about fear-mongering. This is about facing some uncomfortable truths about the global economic landscape. We're here to shed light on the realities that shape our world today. We're going to unpack 10 shocking facts that reveal just how much influence China wields over key US sectors. These facts might surprise you, and they certainly will make you think. From the cars we drive, which are often assembled with parts sourced from China, to the phones we're probably using to watch this very video, the reach of Chinese manufacturing is extensive and deeply integrated into our daily lives. Buckle up, folks, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. We're about to embark on a journey through the intricate web of global trade and economic dependencies. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and let's get started. All right, let's start with something many of us are trying to get behind, both figuratively and literally: electric vehicles. These aren't just a trend, they're a revolution in how we think about transportation. From reducing our carbon footprint to cutting down on fuel costs, electric vehicles are paving the way for a cleaner, more efficient future. The future of transportation, right? Imagine a world where the hum of engines is replaced by the quiet whir of electric motors. It's not just a dream, it's happening now, and it's transforming our cities and highways. Eco-friendly, sleek, and overwhelmingly dominated by China. China isn't just participating in this revolution, they're leading it. Their factories are churning out electric vehicles at an unprecedented rate, making them a global powerhouse in this industry. See, when it comes to the beating heart of these vehicles, the batteries, China holds all the cards. Their dominance in battery production is a game changer, giving them a significant edge in the electric vehicle market. We're talking over 76% of global production. That's a staggering figure, and it highlights just how far ahead China is in this race. Their investment in battery technology is paying off in a big way. Meanwhile, the US is stuck in the slow lane, desperately trying to build a charging station network that isn't powered by hopes and dreams. The infrastructure gap is a significant hurdle that needs to be overcome if the US wants to compete on the global stage. It's like trying to win a marathon when your competitor is already doing victory laps. The race is on and the stakes are high. The question is, can the rest of the world catch up to China's electric vehicle juggernaut? Ever heard of rare earth minerals? No, they're not the collectible trading cards of the geological world. These things are vital for everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to defense systems and wind turbines. And guess who controls over 70% of the world's refining capacity? Yep, China. It's like they're holding the world's most boring yet essential hostage situation. And the ransom? Well, let's just say it gives them a lot of leverage in trade negotiations. Remember those Chinese electric vehicles we talked about? Well, they're not just staying put. Chinese companies like BYD are flooding the global market, outpacing even Tesla in some areas. They're popping up in Europe, Latin America, even making inroads in the US. It's a full-blown electric invasion, and American automakers are struggling to keep up. It's like bringing a sputtering gas guzzler to a Formula E race. Sure, you might get some nostalgic looks, but you're not winning any trophies. Chapter 4. Made in China, the hollowing out of US manufacturing. This one's a real heartbreaker. Remember when Made in America meant something? Well, those days are fading faster than a cheap pair of jeans. As China's manufacturing prowess grows, American factories are closing down, and those manufacturing jobs? Vanishing like a politician's promise in an election year. Major auto companies, tech giants, you name it, they're all setting up shop in China, lured by lower costs and a less stringent regulatory environment. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially for those who relied on those jobs. Chapter 5. Playing by different rules, China's trade tactics. Now let's talk about fair play, or rather the lack thereof. See, China isn't afraid to give its industries a helping hand, and by helping hand, I mean massive government subsidies. This allows Chinese companies to undercut US competitors on price, often leaving American businesses struggling to compete. It's like trying to run a bakery next to a government-funded cake factory that gives away free samples. Sure, you might admire their efficiency, but good luck staying afloat. Chapter 6. The Solar Panel. Paradox: US dependence on China's green tech. Here's a real head-scratcher. The United States, a global leader in innovation and technology, finds itself in a peculiar situation. As it pushes forward with ambitious plans to transition to renewable energy, it faces a significant dependency on a foreign nation. The US is investing heavily in green energy, which is great. Solar panels, wind turbines and other renewable energy sources are being installed at a rapid pace. This is part of a broader strategy to combat climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're talking a renewable energy revolution. Cities and towns across the country are embracing this change, with solar farms and wind turbines becoming a common sight. The goal is clear: to create a sustainable and environmentally friendly energy infrastructure. But here's the catch: over 80% of the world's solar panel supply comes from, you guessed it, China. This dominance in the solar panel market means that the US is heavily reliant on Chinese manufacturing for its green energy ambitions. So while the US is trying to break free from fossil fuels, it faces a new kind of dependency. The transition to renewable energy is supposed to reduce reliance on foreign oil and gas, but instead it has created a reliance on foreign technology. It's becoming increasingly reliant on China for the technology to do so. This dependency raises questions about energy security and the geopolitical implications of relying on a single country for critical components of the energy infrastructure. It's like trying to quit smoking by switching to a different brand of cigarettes made in the same factory. The US must navigate this complex landscape carefully, balancing its green energy goals with the need for a more diversified and secure supply chain. Remember those rare earth minerals we talked about earlier? Well, it gets worse. China recently imposed export restrictions on gallium and germanium, two elements crucial for making semiconductors, the brains of all our electronic devices. And guess what else relies heavily on these materials? Military technology. It's a strategic move that has sent ripples of concern through the United States tech and defense industries. Imagine if your building contractor suddenly decided to stop selling you nails and cement. Sure, you could try to find alternatives, but it would throw a wrench in your plans, wouldn't it? Remember those sputtering gas guzzlers we talked about? Well, the situation is even more dire than we thought. While Chinese EV makers like NIO and Geely are gaining global market share at a breakneck pace, American auto giants like Ford and GM are announcing layoffs and plant closures, citing rising costs and supply chain disruptions. It's a changing of the guard, and right now China is holding the keys to the kingdom. It's like watching a high-stakes game of musical chairs, and the music is about to stop. Remember that trade war that was supposed to be good and easy to win? Well, it turns out trade wars are about as easy to win as a staring contest with a toddler. The US still relies heavily on Chinese imports, making it vulnerable to trade restrictions and those lovely things called tariffs. It's like voluntarily putting yourself in a tickle fight with someone who has 8 arms. Sure, you might get in a few good jabs, but you're ultimately at a disadvantage. Here's the sobering reality. China's economic rise isn't a blip on the radar, it's a seismic shift in the global balance of power. As China strengthens trade ties with countries across the globe, from Mexico and Brazil to the European Union and the Middle East, the US is steadily losing its grip on global manufacturing and trade. It's like watching someone else throw a housewarming party in what used to be your backyard. You might not want to admit it, but the neighborhood has definitely changed. So there you have it. 10 uncomfortable truths about China's growing influence over US industries. Now, before you go full doomsday prepper and start stockpiling canned goods and learning Mandarin, remember, this isn't about surrendering to despair. It's about understanding the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. The US needs to adapt, innovate, and perhaps most importantly, invest in its own workforce and infrastructure if it wants to compete in this new economic landscape. Because one thing's for sure, China's rise is a global reality that's not going away anytime soon.